Thank you. Thank you, Simran. We are expecting a few of our participants and speakers to join as we speak. We'll wait for a few more minutes and then we can start our session. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Um, I hope I'm audible. Hi, welcome to today's webinar on strengthening epidemic preparedness in a changing climate from communities to systems. This is a webinar to commemorate the International Day of Epidemic Preparedness that has been started since 2020 by the UN. As we observe this day, it underscores the vital connections between climate change, environmental factors, and epidemic risk. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has been a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities in our system and the urgency of building resilience at every level, including community, institutional, national, and global. Today, we'll reflect on the lessons learned and we'll explore the One Health concept, the approach. For those who do not know about it, it will be introduced along the session. And we discuss actionable strategies for fostering preparedness and resilience in the face of future epidemics. Thank you for joining, everyone. I will introduce myself. I am Kripa Lakshmi. I am a program associate at SPR India. I work in the team of collaborative advocacy, and I'm also the focal point for health in SPR India. On behalf of SPR, I am very happy to welcome everyone here. I will be moderating the session today, and I would like to pass on the spotlight to Dr. Machado to give a brief introduction and for setting the context.
Thank you very much, Krupa. Good morning, everybody. I hope I'm audible. Over.
Yes, sir, you are audible. Sir, could you please give me a minute to introduce you? I would like to take the honor to introduce you to
Sure.
everyone present here. Yes. Dr. Machado, Dr. Leonard McDonald Machado is an accomplished public health professional. Sir has a MBBS and MD degree in community medicine. He brings over 2 decades of experience in epidemic preparedness, immunization programs, and health system strengthening. Sir has held prominent roles as technical officer with WHO EMRO and the National AEFI focal person for WHO India. Sir has led the polio outbreak response. He has designed surveillance systems and developed national training materials for routine immunization and vaccine safety. Dr. Machado has his innovative contributions include reviving polio surveillance in the Djibouti, creating India's AEFI information system, and coordinating multi-country health system strategies during emergencies. He is a seasoned academic as well. He has served as associate professor and guided research in community health, biomedical-based management, and chronic care. Sir has extensive field experience and leadership in public health, making him an invaluable experience in epidemic preparedness and health system strengthening as we focus on today's session. And I am very happy to have you on here, sir. It was a great experience meeting you. I've had very nice insights from you when we talked the other day when we met. I am very happy to have the other people present here also experience the same. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Krupa, and I'm very humbled by your introduction. It's been, I think, public health has been the field which has taken us all over the world, and I want to first and foremost thank you and Sphere India and IHMR Delhi for this very important webinar. And also, I'd like to welcome all the attendees. And it's always a challenge, especially when we're doing things online. But I think coming back to the point of where we all started off and how we look at public health very differently is where we look at COVID-19 as the sort of fulcrum point, and we have the pre-COVID and the post-COVID. So a lot of lessons learned. Krupa, if I can request you, should I share the screen, or would it be simpler for you to share the screen with the presentation?
Anything is fine, sir. Good, Simran, can you give the
My
access for sir to
apologies that
share?
I suddenly changed because I suddenly realized I don't want to get disconnected in between.
Yeah, sure. I understand. Is it visible now?
No, not yet. We can see a Word document.
Okay.
So now everybody knows which college I was from. So
Okay.
not a problem, not a problem. So at the outset, I'd like to again welcome everybody, and I know that you're from various backgrounds and all over the country. And I would first and foremost like to welcome you all to the family of epidemic response. The very fact that each of you have taken time out from all the work that you're doing every day to spend an hour and a half to listen to some of the brilliant speakers that we have speaking to us today. So I'll try to bring it all into context. The topic, as we know, is in terms of International Day of Epidemic Preparedness. That's where we start off with strengthening the epidemic preparedness in a changing climate. And what I liked about the title was from communities to systems. I think this also is representative of the fact that we have evolved in public health a lot from probably 50 years ago or even 20 years ago. We all remember when avian influenza, when we had the H1N1 outbreaks, all of these coming into play. Our systems were weak. Our systems didn't know how to respond. But I think we've come a long way. We also need to be able to recognize not only the gaps and what are the lessons learned, but I think it's also important for us in public health to recognize what's worked. When we look at epidemics, when we look at the transmission of diseases, I think it's also important for us to remember that while we focus a lot on human populations, we keep thinking of our population movement, whether it's migration, whether it's forced migration, but we keep forgetting that there's one or another important component that which is important even in disease surveillance is also the involvement of disease surveillance systems in animal husbandry. We are talking about zoonotic diseases. We are talking about the changes in vectors as a consequence of climate change and so many other factors, which I'll just cover quickly in my next slide. But I think it's also important as public health and as public health experts here, all of us sitting here with a lot of experiences, but also the future to look forward, that we need to remember that we cannot look at things in isolation. Another challenge that you face when looking at epidemics and epidemic response is the fact that we are dealing with health systems from different countries. Some are developed, some are underdeveloped, some are developing. They each have their unique health systems, wherein which the response that they are capable of doing will be in proportion to the maximum capacity of their health systems, both in terms of infrastructure as well as manpower. So I think with this background, we are looking at three very important topics that will be discussed today, which I hope will also give you some answers to the many questions that I will be throwing out in my first and second slide. Uh, when we look at the factors in disease transmission, we go to the textbook way of looking at things. We think, okay, this is how the system functions, or this is how the disease transmission occurs. It's very simple to look at the agent factors and the host factors and the environmental factors, the good old epidemiological triad. But I think today we are seeing a lot of dynamic changes. There are some unique factors coming up. For example, climate change. It's moving the boundaries of temperature. We're seeing movement of vectors across into areas wherein which diseases that have never been heard of are now coming into play. We have natural disasters that are happening, whether it's floods or volcanic eruptions, and all of these also cause movement of population, and along with them the fauna that they have as livelihoods, as point of livelihood. So climate change, whether man-made, we can look at it as either a man-made effect or an impact, but all the same, this brings down realities to moving populations. So once the boundaries move, the population moves. Environmental, when we're looking at environmental, we are looking at not just in the terms of the definition of environment, we are looking at it also in the aspect of the individual and the community environments, which are very unique. If you look at the population and how they live in parts of North and Central Africa versus North India and South India. So when you're looking at it globally, we also need to keep in mind that environmental becomes more not in terms of its definition, what we look at, but more of the individual ecology, the local ecology of how that affects and impacts the disease transmission, my capacities to be exposed or not to be exposed. Geopolitical, the conflicts, the forced migration that is happening. Along with this, lives and livelihood also moves. How far are we able to predict? How far are we able to use the data and the information that is available with us to sort of predict where this is going or where these populations will move? What about the logistics that come into play? All of these have a direct impact on disease transmission. Today, economy, we are in a globe where, in the words of Thomas Friedman in his book, The World is Flat. We are today in that situation where in which the linkages of economies and how it drives changes in ecology, changes in environment of individuals and communities. Yes, we are very happy that we have green cars, but do we realize that that means each car now requires 200 kilograms more of aluminum, and this is fueling the mining activities in South America, the cutting down of the rainforest, changing local ecologies, moving animals and all sorts of fauna out of their general places of residence and then interaction with the communities. As a consequence of these mining companies being there, the movement of population from, so all of these are also aspects that we need to take into consideration. Response related, and all of these points also reflect onto our three speakers today. When you look at the capacity and community resilience, you'll be wondering, why is this a factor in disease transmission? The answer is yes, we've seen it with COVID. The sooner you can respond, the sooner that your hospital system can take up that sudden pulse load of patients or immediately respond in terms of halting disease transmission or taking community based actions. This itself will ensure that you either shorten the period of exposure to the community, to the country, and to the world. It could also mean the difference between a small outbreak to an epidemic to a pandemic. And I think we've seen this with COVID. Can I have the next slide, please? Response framework and linkages. Now, you'll be looking here, and on the left hand side, I've put the disaster management cycle. I think at certain points in time, we also need to look at epidemics. There is a very clear guidelines and tools available on epidemic response and how an outbreak should be looked into, the risk assessment, etc. These are skills which are very critical both in terms of identification of a disease, identification of a probable outbreak, or identifying the signs, the trends. One of the speakers today will be talking about the epidemiological trends. That's where it comes in. But also to understand that each is a probable disaster. One of the reasons I've put this here is the focus on the disaster management exercises. I think this, I'll give a few points when we get to the point respond. I may have oversimplified this by taking three words: suspect, detect, and respond. But this will sort of link into the experiences and the knowledge that our three speakers will share with us today. The aspect of suspect, the basic tenet of surveillance is to be able to detect a disease or a sign or a symptom or a probable disease well in advance of its capacity to spread within the population. So when one looks at that, we need to also remember, what is the source of our information? Where is our data coming from? And this is where in public health, the capture of information from its absolute origin point, at the point where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, is where the strengthening of surveillance, both within certain communities or certain professions or within certain communities across the board. How does this relate in terms of when disasters happen? How do we going to make these systems still function? We've had challenges in areas where in conflict, where there is civil strife. How does one go about ensuring that this suspect, the suspicion of a disease is brought forward for in which public health can then respond and take actions? Research in this area. What are the areas to strengthen further? And this is where today's topics will cover or give us some insights into this aspect. To detect, we look at the laboratory network. How do you confirm a diagnosis? We know that's the basics. But how does one conduct this detection on top of a hill? How does one conduct this post a disaster? Because all of these aspects come into play. Research needs to also go. For example, we have got lab on a chip today. We've got advances in technology. We've got artificial intelligence, etc. All of these aspects are in terms of detection. The community medicine department, the public health departments across, we've got almost 500, 600 medical schools in the country, a fantastic resource that needs to be tapped. So that's where research can drive these aspects of strengthening either suspecting in terms of disease surveillance or detection. Finally, we come down to respond, the capacity, the logistics required. What are the collaborations that would be required? As I mentioned initially, the Department of Animal Husbandry, and I think personally, as all of you as public health experts here sitting down and joining us today, we need to also reflect how much have we really in our work over the years linked up with the Department of Animal Husbandry when we dealt with even simple outbreaks or with simple issues on the ground. So this is a thought process, and I'm sure that as we go forward with the speakers, they will throw more light into this and share their experiences and the lessons learned. So capacity in terms of training, and that's where from personal experience we've seen in North Africa when we were dealing with the polio outbreak, the use of a simulation exercise. That means building your capacity is training, but also to give the resource available to you, whether it's in the hospital or through the public health system, the capacity and that resilience to respond when it is required. And I've experienced it and seen how simulation exercises play a major role. And I think this is an area where the disaster management, the recent guidelines, and also we have the DMEX guidelines and on creating and conducting exercises. So this is where it links up to, and probably an oversimplified version of when you're looking at disease surveillance, but suspect, detect, and respond. Can I have, there are plenty of tools also that I've put some of the links in this, so you can freely share the slide. Next slide, please, the last one. And I will not be reading this through, my dear colleagues and friends in epidemic response and preparedness, because as of all of you joining us now and listening to our three fantastic speakers, of course, Professor Jugal Kishore, who is someone we all have great respect for, and also the other two, Dr. Narain and Dr. Nidhi from IHMR and from Madras Medical College, great institutions. The point here is that the One Health mission, I think we need to keep in mind these 5 points and the other four pillars that have been put forward. I think a lot of efforts have gone into this. It's a brilliant program. All of this information is available, downloadable, and I think this is where we constantly take a look at it. Each of you come from different backgrounds. Each of you come from different situations. And I would suggest that listening to the three speakers today, probably what you need to look at is what can you do with some of the information that is shared with you, some of the experiences shared with you, and more than that, how can you utilize it in your environment and your ecology. So with that, I will end. I hope I've been able to put context to the three fantastic speakers, and I also look forward to learning, because I think in public health we need to remember we are experienced but we're not experts. Thank you very much. Over to you, Kripa.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a humble introduction and thank you so much for beautifully setting the context of the session. I am happy how you took us through the dynamics of the disease transmission through everything, including globalization and everything, logistics and stuff, and the suspect, detect, response. That is what I take away from those like buzzwords from our session. And thank you for emphasizing on being an academic, and thank you for stressing upon how the research academies can be utilized as our resources, and how capacity building through simulation exercises. That is a very great point. And also, thank you for setting the context in terms of how communities can be involved, where Dr. Jugal Kishore sir and Dr. Nidhi ma'am can also be talking upon. And on the epidemiological, the technical part, Dr. Naren is going to explain to us about it. Thank you for setting a global introduction and slowly taking to the Indian context, where Dr. Naren will come now. And thanks a lot, sir. I would like to now introduce Dr. Naren. I will give a brief introduction about Naren as well now. Yes. Dr. Naren is a friend of mine and colleague of mine. I'm very happy to have him here. He's working as a senior research fellow in the INSPIRES project at the Institute of Internal Medicine, Madras Medical College in Chennai. And he has a medicine background and a public health professional with specializations in epidemiology and biostatistics. He has a robust portfolio of impactful projects, including cross-sectional study on the health and well-being of food delivery riders, and a scoping review on digital interventions in traditional medicine, and a specific project that is evaluation of outbreak investigations by the India Field Epidemiology Training Program at the ICMR NIH Chennai, where he was an intern. And he has a number of publications. Specifically that I want to mention is his publication in the topic of COVID-19 quarantine impacts and the antioxidative potential of Siddha formulations. Previously, he was an intern at NIE ICMR, and he served as a principal investigator for a scoping review and contributed to a secondary data analysis with additional qualifications in global health and systematic review and sustainable development goals. He has adept knowledge in research, methodologies, data analysis, and a number of tools like SPSS, field data collection tools. And he's an expert in field epidemiology, non-communicable diseases, and One Health. I'm very happy to have him here, and over to you, Naren.
Thank you, Krupa Lakshmi, and thank you, Spear India, for this wonderful opportunity to share in this platform with well-renowned professors. And so I'll just share my screen. Screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, Naren, please go ahead.
So today's my topic is like epidemiological trend and emerging infectious disease. So in the next 10 minutes, what we're going to discuss about the epidemiological trend of the emerging infectious disease, as well as we're going to discuss about the Nipah virus in respect with their outbreak that had happened in Kerala and the ecological point of view and the learnings that the government had taken in the various outbreaks of Nipah virus. So emerging infectious disease. So emerging infectious disease is a group of disease that appears in the population for the first time. So here the thing is like these are the incidence disease, and based on the geographic region and the range, it can be classified as a outbreak, an epidemic, as well as a pandemic. So this for any disease to happen within a population, you need to have this epidemiological triad. That is, an agent should be there, which is causing the disease, and that should be a host, and that should be an environment that is bridging these agent as well as this host condition. So this epidemiological triad is very much important for the disease transmission. So we are going to cover how this environment as well as the agent and host in the next few slides. And this in epidemiological perspective, in the time of emerging infectious disease, these are the few infectious diseases that have been happening after 2003, and we all well known about the 2020 pandemic SARS-CoV-2. So regarding place, so there are identified hotspots which have been done through spatial explicit models, and these hotspots are being identified which can get a emerging infectious disease in the future. So these hotspots have the characteristics of high wildlife biodiversity, concomitant microbial biodiversity, and intense human activities intersecting with natural ecosystems. And in this map, you can see India is being ranging in the high risk for this infectious disease. Not only India, the neighboring countries like Myanmar, Thailand, China, and Singapore, Malaysia, and few areas of Africa regions have been coming under this. So these are some of the infectious viral infections that have been reported in India. So this been reported right from 1955. So you can also see Nipah virus outbreak that happened in Kozhikode, Kerala in 2018. So regarding person transmission, we have to, this is very much important in this thing. Like there are 5 stages in this transmission as you can see here. So the first stage, only the agent will be there. There won't be a animal or human transmission. But in the second stage, as you can see, the diseases like Nipah and rabies, it's a primary infection. The stage 2 is a primary infection, only where the animals will transmit the disease to the humans. That's a direct transmission. It's a primary infection. That's a direct transmission. And in the third stage, you can see there will be a minimal transmission among human to human. That is, there will be animal transmission followed by a human transmission. And in the long outbreak, you can see yellow fever, cholera. And in the fifth type, you can see there will be a human transmission. So as we all know, measles, mumps, which are the respiratory transmitted through respiratory droplets, these can be transmitted through human beings without the animal interaction. So impact of animal disease on human health. So there are 60% of existing human infectious diseases are zoonotic. Of at least 75% of those zoonotic diseases are of emerging infectious diseases of human, including Ebola, HIV, and influenza having an animal origin. Followed by 5 new human diseases appears every year, of which 3 are of animal origin. And of 80% of agents with potential bioterrorism use are zoonotic pathogens. So coming to Nipah, in Nipah, like we will be learning about the different outbreaks that have happened in India, not only India, in Kerala especially, and what are the learnings that the government have taken from Nipah. So as you all know, Nipah is a naturally hosted by therapid bats. So Nipah was the first outbreak that happened in Nipah is in Malaysia as well as in Singapore. In 1998, it happened in Malaysia. Followed by in 1999, there was a cluster that happened in Singapore. Followed by that, the early 2000, we came across an outbreak that happened in Bangladesh, especially in Dhaka. There were more cases that have been registered, and this Siliguri, where the outbreak happened first in India, that is on 2001. Siliguri is very much located very close to Bangladesh, and that was the first outbreak that happened in India regarding Nipah, and followed by 2018 outbreak that happened in Kerala. So this is the current knowledge regarding the Nipah transmission we have. Initially, as I mentioned before, in this Singapore and Malaysia, in Malaysia, the first transmission that they were observed was between pigs and humans, and followed by Bangladesh. They identified these therapid bats, which is having a direct transmission, and these droplets and handling the bats having an direct transmission thing, and followed by this transmission through contamination through fruit and beverages, and these date palm sap is becoming is also been stated as a medium for transmission, as well as it's also been transmitted through this horse, actually, especially, and in horse kind of thing in Nipah virus, it has been seen in Australian outbreaks. So followed by this super spreader events, and these super spreader events was the main cause for the 2018 outbreak. We will see how that happened in Kerala. So before going into it, this super spreader events is nothing but the unprotected close contact can sometimes lead to super spreader events. So in Kerala, the first outbreak was happened in 2018, and these were the biological confirmation of virus in 14 sites from 5 different districts of Kerala. So they have given Kozhikode, Malappuram, Idukki, Ernakulam, and Wayanad, of which you can also see there are some super spreading events that happen in hospitals, and these happened in 2018 outbreak as well as in 2023 outbreak. In 2018 outbreak, the first case was among our family members, and when these people are being transmitted to the local hospitals in Kozhikode, there were 3 hospitals that have been affected due to this Nipah virus, and the transmission happened among the people within the hospital itself. So initially, only 3 patients of the primary family members were being affected. Due to this super spreader criteria, the transmission happened among the other populations too. So this is a complete summary of the outbreaks. Adding to this, there were 2 more outbreaks that happened in Kerala this year. The one is on July 2024, and second one is on September 2024. Comparing these things, The first outbreak had 23 cases, of which 21 deaths have been measured. And in second outbreak, there were only 1 cases, followed by third outbreak that was 1 cases and that was a death. And the fourth outbreak, we had 6 cases and 2 of them were dead. So comparing the CFR, case fatality rate, you can see the case fatality rate in 2018 was 91.3%. When compared to 2023, the case fatality rate was just 33.3%, which appeared to be low. So this CFR decline may be due to the early detection and prompt treatment during the 2023 outbreak might have resulted a decline in CFR. So ecological point of view of NIFA. So ecological disruption, deforestation and human encroachment in biodiversity hotspots are attributed to the emergence of zoonotic diseases. You can see this spillovers points. So these are the sites for spillovers. Those triangle sites were the spillover points. So 4 to 6 spillovers in Kerala happening during El Nino years. So we all know about the El Nino La Nina effect that is happening currently in for the past decade in India. So increased ambient temperature will also have an effect on the transmission. So in Malaysia, severe drought driven by El Nino ENSO was also being measured during the Malaysian outbreak of Nipah virus. So elevated temperature stresses bats, increasing infection, viral load, and human-animal transmissions. So increasing temperature will also having a role in it. So among the 6 spillovers happened, and these happened between the months of May and September, which is called as a ripening season in Kerala, where you get all the seasonal fruits, and that seasonal fruits also be an mode of transmission for this disease. So other than this, the deforestation and encroachment of their dwelling areas may increase the spillover. And this has also been seen in Malaysia as well, in the Malaysia outbreak as well as in Bangladesh outbreak. This spillovers has been seen in areas where there was a increase in deforestation and encroachment areas. So apart from the disease point of view, the fruit market of the state, especially in Kerala, has a downfall because of this Nipah outbreak, and there was an economical burden also for this particular market. So in the 4 outbreaks, after the 4, currently there were 2 more outbreaks, 6 outbreaks. After 2018, the government had initiated a surveillance, contact tracing and quarantine program. And then they started this health system strengthening and diagnosing and management of cases and research and partnership and information, education and communication. And that was the main reason that they have ended the outbreak in a very short span of time in 2023. When compared to 2018, the area that the cases have been identified, which is very limited within a panchayat, 2 or 3 panchayats only involved in Kozhikode district, rather than the whole district is being quarantine or things. So the key learnings from Nipah virus outbreak in Kerala are the public health preparedness. So strengthening health system for effective outbreak response, rapid diagnosis and response. So establishment of point of care assay for timely intervention. So multidisciplinary collaboration, as the previous speakers are said, there should be a One Health approach for these zoonotic diseases. So that should be a multidisciplinary collaboration, and they had this One Health team after this. They formed the One Health team after the 2018 Nipah outbreak. So intensified contact tracing. So rigorous contact tracing to prevent secondary transmission, and this contact tracing was being done even before the 2020 COVID outbreak. In Tamil Nadu and other parts of India, we did this contact tracing only after the COVID-19. But before that period itself, since they had this Nipah outbreak in 2018, the public health team in Kerala had a intensified contact tracing things. So biosafety and infection control. So biorisk management and bio waste should be, and for training for healthcare workers. So research and development. So they are also working on the research and development part regarding this. So I would like to conclude my session with these 2 slides. You can see 2 informations. One is about how America lost control on the bird flu, setting the stage for another pandemic. So there is a bird flu happening in America right from the early of 2024. But still, since the public health system and the health system as compared to the another country, that is Renat's country, that is in Africa, which is very small country. Those USA have a strong public health system. They had very slow response to cross species transmission. What happened is initially the disease happened only among the poultry farms, and then it gradually transmitted to the dairy farming also. And delaying of testing measures, inadequate protective surveillance, underestimation of the risk. So these were the key points where the America lost the control of bird flu. In the other case, in Raynaud's Marburg response, the Marburg disease that has been reported on 27 September to 2024. Once the disease is being reported, Raynaud's country developed a 7 steps in 7 days plan. In 7 steps in 7 days plan, they curtail the disease and they end the outbreak in 20 December 2024. So you can see the epidemic curve in this. So what the things that they have followed is rapid implementation of control measures, intervention of collaboration, deployment of experimental vaccines, public health measures as also taken in response with surveillance system examination and other public health measures. So through this, it is very much clear that this shows a picture. It's not about the country or the development of the country, how prepared the country is to face a emergency infection in the near future. Thank you. Thank you, Spear India, for giving this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Naren. Thank you so much for such a beautiful presentation. Like Dr. Machado said, we have to look back at the lessons learned and the best practices to take us forward. And thank you for very nicely presenting the Nipah case and also how inspiring Rwanda was in controlling the disease in 7 days and how another huge country like America failed to do the same. And thank you so much. We do have a few questions from my side and the participants. We'll get back to you in the Q&A session. Thank you so much. Over to now Dr. Jugal Kishore, sir. The next session on community medicine lens, who better than Jugal sir to talk us through that. Sir, I would like to take a minute to have the honor of introducing you to everyone. Dr. Jugal Kishore sir is an eminent public health educator, practitioner, holds a MBBS from MAMC and MD in community medicine from AIMS. And sir has done a multiple fellowships and postgraduate qualifications, including PhD in psychiatry from the University of Delhi. With a career spanning the development of community medicine departments and centers for occupational and environmental health, sir has made significant contributions to social, mental, and environmental health in India. Dr. Kishore has published over 290 research papers and authored more than 30 books on public health and social reform. And sir is a
We can't listen. Rupa.
Are you not audible, Kripa?
Namaskar, Professor, sir. This is Dr. Machado speaking, sir. Pranam, sir. Always an honor meeting you, sir, and looking forward. I think they had a little connection issue, sir. If it's all right, sir, and can you share your screen? Do you have a presentation, sir? Maybe you can
Yeah.
proceed. Thank you, sir.
And see my slides.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Yes,
If you
sir.
can put it on full screen, then it will be perfect, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Over to you, sir.
Yeah, now it is full screen.
Yes, sir,
Yes,
absolutely.
It's moving. It's moving.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to be part of the Sphere India, have long association, continuously working in disaster management when we were organizing some workshop of 3 days, and they were part of us. They have taken sessions on environmental issues and public health, and then disaster management. Um, Also associated with NIDM activities. So once again, coming back to, and the best part is that celebrating International Day on Epidemic Preparedness. That's a wonderful thing, because in community medicine, what is realized that we don't celebrate such activity, although the World Health Organization Day, World Health Day is celebrated. Even other days are celebrated, but epidemic disease day is less known to even students and faculty. So it's a good thing. Although the epidemiology is taken as one of the core component of community medicine. I personally feel that community medicine, as academician, as you have already said, uh, Leonardo, you have said that, community medicine play a role. But just to say that what is community medicine, and, how we can understand that why epidemic or pandemic is actually a community medicine or a public health issue. Uh, and other discipline has to just come in and play their role. Otherwise, it's mainly a community medicine issue. So when we define community medicine, it is actually a study of health and disease of the population. So not individual, but population in a defined population, defined community, and a group. So it has to be a particular community. So that is why this is important, because we are talking of community and a group. And the goal is to find out what is the problem they have and what are their needs of that population. So we can make some community diagnosis, and then to plan and implement and evaluate the extent to which the health measures effectively meeting those needs and the problem is solved or not. So total management of the problem in a defined community is actually community medicine. And the practitioners of the community medicines are the family physician, or you can say public health specialist, or community health managers. They are all, who are working in NGO, or maybe community medicine department, or maybe ministry. Rather, I say ministry is actually nothing but the extension of community medicine department. And when we differentiate between the public health and community medicine, then this is, the public health is uh, part of the, or so you can say the community medicine is part of the public health, where multi sectors come and play a role, where the health, is totally realized. It is a science and art of preventing disease and prolonging life, promoting health, and efficient, use of the community resources, or in an organized manner, and not in every direction, but focusing on sanitation of environment, control of communicable diseases or non-communicable disease, and education of the individual on personal hygiene, organization of medical and nursing services for early diagnosis and preventing of the disease and treatment, and then developing that machinery which is able to live a long and very standard full life with whatever resources available, and maintaining that health throughout. So that makes, much broader and bigger. Rather, you can say it's a part of the way of life one should have in a community. That's what is meaning of it. So you all know about that there are multi-dimensional, or say multiple, factors are there which are affecting our disease and health. And you can see that these all important dimensions which are working each other and working together, if they are disturbed, that can lead to, disease occurrence. And when it is a little higher, or maybe unexpected in a very short period, much bigger scale, then it become epidemic. And when it is crossing the boundaries, then it can become the, you know excuse me, hello. हाँ, डलवा लो सब करा दो, है ना, सब कर अच्छा करा दो यार, करा दो, मैं ना क्लास ले रहा हूँ अभी, एक मिनट। So sorry. So we already know that there are certain risk factors. So disease occur because of the factors, and these factors are better understood by the epidemiology. And the epidemic and epidemiology are very close related. Actually, the purpose is to find out the cause where we can focus our energy or focus our plan and programs, so we can decrease those all risk factors. So we have enumerated many, and when we come to the epidemic, actually just those important risk factors, say the unsafe sex or high blood pressure, tobacco, alcohol, they are taken into non-communicable, and communicable disease are taken as epidemics. But when we see these all things and the clear definition of epidemic, then even the non-communicable disease are emerging as epidemic now. And we have you know you can say whether it's air pollution leading to a lot of issues, or maybe alcohol, or maybe kidney problems, or cardiac problem. Now they are emerging as, or maybe say the diabetes, they are coming as an epidemic form. So focus is that whether that present community is able to handle those all things that require extra efforts to manage it, that makes a public health emergency. So that is why now we more talk about the public health emergency rather than just epidemic. Anyway, this is the basic component, and we know that over a period of time, we have witnessed many diseases which are disturbing the total community and also to the nation and international, communities, and they have become the concern to the medical community, or rather the whole community. And we have example, and these examples are telling that we have to develop our mechanism in such a way that we are able to handle them properly. So over a period of time, we can see that number of epidemics and pandemic is increasing. For last 20 to 25 years, you can see that we have witnessed the SARS, we have witnessed swine flu, MERS, and lately the COVID pandemic, which are a big name in in the history. So the epidemiology of epidemics, you can see that urbanization, which Leonard and Narayan has also said, where the urbanization, deforestation, globalization, overcrowding of cities, pollution, which could be the sound, air, water, and the soil, poor hygiene and sanitation, lifestyle change. Uh, as you said that it is the meat market or market, the way we are getting the wild animals in our market, then behavior and social value systems, the poor public health infrastructure in many of the places, and emergence of the resistance of the pathogens to the antibiotic, which again becoming a threat. So increased mobility, like the travel and tourism, which led to the pandemics in a very faster time, which we have seen in a COVID and other diseases which are recently occurring. Also, increased exposure to vector reservoirs, the lack of national, international political will, whatever going on in different parts of the world, where the wars are going on, the unrest is there, which are leading to disruptions of the whole public health mechanisms, leading to more vulnerability to disaster or maybe public health emergency. Inability to treat certain diseases. Initially, we don't have many of the treatment, like even for dengue, we don't have the drugs, although we are working on vaccines. International trade on food is also becoming a problem for us, as we have witnessed into the mad cow disease, where the food has become international issue. The recently the climatic change, although it is not a recent, but now it is being realized more that how it is leading to a health crisis, where the climatic sensitive disease are emerging, the heat stroke, the respiratory disease, or NCD, vector borne waterborne disease, malnutrition, and other outbreaks of epidemic, leading to certain diseases, and then leading to certain disasters, which are because of our climatic change, the disaster is more occurring and leading to more health impact of the disaster, again further affecting the health. According to me, the disaster is nothing but a public health issue, because we have effect on health in terms of the disease, death, disability, distress, disruption of health services, and also disruption of our environment, again leading to a health problem. So all these, whether it is a physical or a mental, things are occurring to the population after the disaster or during the disaster. That is why recently the concept of One Health has emerged, that just development in terms of human health is not sufficient if we are not looking after the animal health and environment. But this is not new for community medicine people, because environment and animal health is always taken into consideration. If you go to the standard books of the community medicine, you'll find the interaction between these all. Agent, host, environment is the epidemiological triangle, where you can easily see the importance of these all things. Rather, not all, but I have shown you some of the bubbles of the factors which are affecting our health and causing the disease. So make more comprehensive. So what is here now, focusing the world community, understanding that a comprehensive measures are required when you want to deal with you know epidemic and pandemics. So what we have learned from the COVID pandemic, I can see that we have seen the crisis of the system which was there, whatever it is. So that is a very important part. Another one is the certain resources and the drug supply and oxygen. We have witnessed that how it was leading to lot of deaths and lot of panic. Then the exhaustions and burnout, and then capacity of the health system to deal with how it is exhaustive and a problematic. Then dealing with the dead bodies is also a concern. We have seen that how these things were, seen in the media, and the community has witnessed such kind of, issues. Then another one is the change of the whole societal structure and societal, economic conditions. You can see that normal the work from home become the new normals, and now every time we are now facing such kind of new normal, that whenever the air pollution is there, so they say that work from home. So it's a new thing has emerged. The labor market has also changed, and we have seen that how bad effect we have of the COVID. Similarly, the labor migration, or the labor movement from urban to rural area back to their home, during that lockdowns, and a kind of crowd has to be managed in a major city was a challenge. Rather, it's a nightmare for us also to think that uh, when we are planning and giving some kind of decision, how they can create issues which were never thought of. Then the strict implementation of social, distancing, that is also a problem, which was showing that the health department is not able to deal with, and we require other machinery, and and every other sector has to play a role to bring down the transmission of infection. And we have seen the different waves, and how the waves were linked with uh, common festivity of the community, and also transmission because of the unlockdown and lockdown, and all these things were seen in those terms. So we have a lot of learning, and all public health understanding emerged out from this COVID. And whatever measures we had used to taught in theoretical scenarios were seen in real life. So you can see that all comprehensive community medicine interventions were practiced And you can see that we have the activation of Epidemic Disease Act, Public Health Act in certain areas. International entries were because of our international laws are there. Surveillance and outbreak investigation started. Contact tracing was started. Risk communication was, there. All levels of social media were creating risk communication in different ways, and different people were there, which can lead to pandemic, which can lead to, infodemics. Then community involvement, the international comparison of the strategies that it is happening in that area. Why not we should have a similar kind of strategy in our country? Then triage system at the hospital level and the community level, isolation wards and the quarantine wards, quality of care, the infection control, biomedical waste management, and availability of the vaccines, and then distribution of vaccine, and in a phased manner, like first is the old person, the health workers, and then community and children were the last one. And then there was the issues of that we should not vaccinate the children also. Handling of dead bodies and mental health counselings, stress management, all these were the part of the community medicines, interventions. They are all public health interventions. So from the COVID pandemic, we have learned screening, testing for the illness, contact tracing, maintenance, maintaining physical distance, creating cohort, and then seeing the, the surveillance, the separating sick person from other, then using mask, hand washing, creating emergency plan for the community, the reviewing the health insurance policy, all were, and the telemedicine that's also, come back to the limelight into that this telemedicine can be used for our health services. So through that, now the question comes that are we prepared, or can we prepare our community for the epidemic or public health emergency? So what is that? Preparedness. The preparedness is actually developing or maintaining system or plans. Whatever we have, the hospital or system, a health system we have. So, maintaining it and developing that system, then developing plan like the district plans and then hospital plans and department plans, and then developing the capacity to respond to emergency. So if it is epidemic, are we, have the capacity to manage it? And that include the risk assessment, developing emergency response plan, establishing communication system, stockpiling of the medical supply and equipment. Now, after seeing the, the oxygen deficit or oxygen supply, breakdown, we realize that all these important life-saving things need to be, equipped every place. The training of the personnel in a much better way, you know, through our using the IT sectors. Then, implementing those plans and capacity during the actual emergency, providing the medical care, distribution of medicine, conducting disease surveillance, all these things are known as a preparedness. You can see that now after that we are focusing more on a health facility resilience. Our health facility should become resilient. Whatever is happening now is we are going to face more and more. A public health emergency would be more because of our environment and climate and all these things. So are we making our community resilient, prepared, and also the resilient? In that case, what kind of, or in resilient, what will come? So it's a health workforce, or you have a waters, sanitation, hygiene, healthcare, waste that should be managed, in which a proper system is required. Also, the use of the energy should not be overused, or wherever the waste is occurring, we should reduce that energy. Infrastructure that should not be, submerged or destroyed or, completely collapsed should not be there. Use of the technology or whatever product is there, innovation should be there. So working on those areas to make our health system, you know, resilient to the, climatic change, which can lead to, drought or fire or storm or, high temperature or low temperature. And on the other side, the environmental impact that could be because of the greenhouses gases or radiation, chemical, air pollution, and ultimately seeing that whole system in terms of the animals, environment, and human. So we can think of the healthy peoples and healthy environment. So total environment has to be looked into when we are developing the climatic resilient and environmental sustainable healthcare facility. So in the few slides on the community-based approach, uh, now one by one we'll go that how we have to address the vulnerability of marginalized population during the health crisis. So I've divided into the what individual can do, what the household can do, the community can do, and then health system can do. So in the individual level, what we have to focus that the sphere India is also playing a role where we can increase the information, knowledge, and behavior in which the increase access to information, the information which is useful can be used for action, so that increase knowledge, and that seeking for that information, so they realize the risk, where the risk could be there, are they vulnerable or not, then their change of the behavior for reduction of that risk if they have identified. So empowering the individual person through knowledge and behavior, that's what is the meaning of the individual level risk perception and risk reduction. Then their skills has to be built in which the better communication and self efficiency in seeking those all resources available in the in the society, and better emotional control, well-being, and mental health. If something happened, then the mental health should be composed, and they do not require, they do not break down and leading to further crisis. And their individual capacity of like first aid or psychological aid can be given, or physical first aid can be given. So those kind of capacity has to be built. Another one is a clinical and health outcome, like increased self-reporting of the sign and symptom. If they're aware that if I have the respiratory problem or maybe some abnormal condition, immediately I should report to the health system. It could be a big problem, can spread to, or when they are going somewhere else, and from there, if they are getting some kind of disease, so they should report. That's a very crucial part. Hiding things may create problem, which we have seen in our COVID. Increase immunity, the self immunity, in which the sleep comes, the hygiene comes, the the immunity of the self come through the good nutrition, which we continuously doing it in various medias, that your self, why certain people suffer from disease and other not. It is based on your the way you live. And then another one is a higher adherence to the treatment if it is given, or vaccine if it is available, they should able to accept it. Unfortunately, we have seen that even the doctors were not taking the COVID vaccine because of their certain reservations. So how a common person is going to accept those all things? Equally, seeing that their quality of life should improve through their empowerment of the knowledge and the skills and mental well-being. So these are all individual level which can make the things much better. At household level, the family engagement in care. If one suffer, then other how they are going to have the care of in a proper manner should not lead to further spread of the disease. Health seeking behavior, that's a very important. The decision of taking the healthcare is actually based on the power structure in the family. So how they are mobilized to have the care seeking behavior in a much better way. Level of stress and tension in the family can be managed, or they can handle it properly, or perception of the household at a risk, and then taking the remedial measures to handle that risk at the household level is very, very important, particularly public health emergencies. At the community level, are things which we are preparing are culturally accepted or not? The way we are making the plan, are they having, we have a different religion, different caste, different system. So are they accepting each other when the plan is made? Are they making some kind of planning? This is very crucial, where the recurrent, disease keep occurring, as, Narayan has said about the Kerala, where Nefa or other disease keep occurring because of the local food or local, forest areas, which lead to Napa and other type of, infections. then community decision making is important. Who is going to take decision and what kind of changes required? And then they have the organizations like we have the panchayati raj in a rural area. In urban area we have the community, the residential communities are there, which in the form of NGOs, RWAs. They can be prepared themselves, and I'm surprised to see the potential they have. In COVID, they were able to manage the alternative system of health, uh, providing the local care of the people in the community. So it's a wonderful that they are the first responder, and they have the capacity. If they are informed properly, if they have the strength, I think they can make the things much better. That is what that the community resilience is possible if they are well prepared. So, uh, and then identifying. So they are the people who are going to identify the risk, uh, at risk community or people, and their preparedness, and then organizing certain activities which can lead to further strengthening of the community, and using all means of the information for further improvement of their communication with each other, and collection of the resources for better planning and implementation at the community level is only possible through their preparedness. Similarly, they have the social capital. The social responsibility and empathy can be seen there. Helping each other is important. Social justice is only possible when they are realizing the vulnerable community all around in the community itself, and helping each other. Then their interconnectedness is very crucial. Then trust and social cohesion. Uh, if that is broken down, I think we cannot manage many of the epidemics and pandemics. So the way they are, having the cohesion with each other, their networking, their availability of resources, then seeing the things, vulnerable population, the gender empowerment, the involvement of the women and other genders, the volunteerism, the use of the social capital, like we have the community halls or the schools or other you know uh, halls, which can be made available. Reduction of the fear and ostracism, or maybe I think the stigma can be reduced by if they understand the issues properly. And then generating or creating the resources, that's a very important part. And then involving the panchayati raj or local governance. And I have said that RWA is coming forward, and they are pooling the resources, pooling the money and buying certain things. That was wonderful, which has been witnessed. So their information, if we can empower them through the good knowledge skills to each one, according to our now laws, we have the Disaster Management Act and also the epidemic, so we can do wonders. On health system, I think another speaker is there who is going to talk about how health system can play a role in service level and preparedness level, where the health services can be better utilized, better prepared, better involvement can be there, where all levels of services or all level of care can be provided, timely referral, timely engagement, and also the implementation and providing the support. They are all important part. That is what I wanted to say. Thank you very much. I think I've taken a lot of time. Sorry for that, but uh, thank you, sir. Thank you very much, everybody. If they have any question, I can handle. So, Krupa, hello.
Yes, thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for a very nice presentation, and thank you for taking down into individual, household, and community level, and paving way for Nidhi ma'am to talk about the healthcare preparedness. And thanks for emphasizing on the infrastructure resilience and community resilience, where we all can work together. And also, I would like to thank Dr. Machado for taking over when I had internet issues and taking over as a host to make sure the session was running smooth. Thanks for that, sir. And over to you, Nidhi ma'am. Just a minute. I would like to take the opportunity to introduce you. Dr. Nidhi Yadav from IIHMR. Madam is a collaborator with us for this session. Thank you so much for all your support, ma'am. And Madam has a doctorate in hospital management with specialization in disaster management. And Madam holds a master's in hospital management with specialization in quality management from the prestigious IIHMR, Jaipur. And she has a dual master's in business administration as well from the Punjab Technical University. And Madam has an external assessor for the National Quality Assurance Standards for the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, and PDN expert in health sector. She is currently working with the International Institute of Health Management Research, New Delhi, as an associate professor. She has experience of 15 plus years in hospital operations, quality management, and academics. She is a copyright holder under the Indian Copyrights Act 1957. She has more than 14 publications in index journals, along with chapters in books. And she is a recent academician, researcher, and medical quality administrator with a zeal to bring tangible changes in the way of quality and disaster management. And I would like to bring the spotlight on you, ma'am. Over to you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Krupa, for the introduction. Thank you, Leonard sir, for putting the emphasis in your talk on research, resilience building, and capacity strengthening and response. And thank you, Jugal Kishore sir, for talking about the health system resilience, which is the way forward for combating or basically addressing the fallout of any kind of a disaster, maybe natural, man-made, or any sort of epidemic or pandemic that we can foresee on the health facilities. So I'll be talking precisely on the health system resilience, which you highlighted in your talk, and we'll try to do justice on the with the subjects with this subject. So I'm sharing my screen. Kripa, let me know if it is visible with everyone.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible. Please go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah. So my this thing subject is to talk on the resilience, community participation, building the safe hospitals, or we can say the responding hospitals and healthcare facilities in the time of disasters and emergencies. So I just try to touch base upon the magnitude of disasters in India. Here in India, we are vulnerable to varying degrees of disasters, primarily natural and man-made in nature. Then 56 reasons behind that is 58.6% of the landmass is prone to earthquake of moderate to severe intensity. Over 40 million hectare, that is 12% of the total land area, is prone to floods or river erosion. We have a long coastline of approximately 7,500 kilometers, both east and west coast combined. And out of this, approximately 5,700 kilometers is prone to cyclones and tsunamis. 68% of our cultivable land is vulnerable to droughts, and hilly areas are at risk of landslides and avalanches. So you name the type of hazard and India has it. In lighter terms, we are also called as a laboratory of hazards and disaster management. We can experiment, learn, research, and give back to the world the solutions for any type of hazard that they can foresee in their country, because India has all of them, most of them. We are short on volcanoes, but we have one volcano, active volcano in Andamans. So that is one positive side of disaster management. Then vulnerabilities to these disasters and emergencies related to chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear nature also exist besides the natural type or the natural category ones. And this heightened vulnerability to disaster risk can be related to expanded population, urbanization, industrialization, as already emphasized by Dr. Shri in his talk. and obviously development within high-risk zones, environmental degradation, climate change, etc., like Jugal Kishore sir mentioned. So I am just getting a lot of support and evidential this thing from my previous speakers, learned speakers. So just mentioning that in my slide. So in all this setup, the importance of the healthcare facilities, if I can say, lies with the fact that we all know that hospitals and other healthcare facilities, they offer more than medical care to the sick. And it is more so in case of developing countries. And this role of hospitals in offering preventive medicines is also extremely essential, as they host most of the public health reference laboratories and they contribute to the diagnosis of various diseases, HIV, AIDS, non-communicable diseases, etc. Hospitals also play a crucial role in raising early warning about the spread of communicable diseases, specifically of epidemiological importance, which can escalate to a level of a pandemic at a larger scale. So it is also worth to mention here that the long-term impact of the disasters due to the loss of leading to the loss of public health services in any kind of a disaster event on sustainable development goals it has a more impending impact in comparison to the delay in treatment of trauma injuries due to disasters. So if you have to compare that delayed treatment caused us more loss versus the impending disasters and when we talk in terms of SDGs and their attainments, so disasters cause more loss. It is proven in various, and it is published in various literatures. And this hidden impact of disaster, which I'm talking right now, is even more difficult to gauge in terms of financial figures. And therefore, it is mostly overlooked by researchers that you cannot add a financial value to the playtime lost or to the positive environment factor lost because of the ruined biodiversity or the affected biodiversity. Moreover, for a community, the presence of a functional hospital, the key hospital in that area, providing this medical care is extremely important. Hospitals are equally important like other institutions, for example, schools, colleges, power plants, airports, firefighting stations, etc. It actually has a symbolic value. It has psychological impact that yes, I have a facility to look at where I can go and get myself treated in the event of a mishap. Second, and most important, is a multi-specialty hospital, which is well equipped one also. They hold enormous amount of investment. And its destruction during the event of disaster leads to a major financial burden on the affected community. So the fallout is always on the community when a structure is damaged, when the functionality is lost. The worst part is the use of field hospitals, which are temporary facilities. They are mostly proven to be ineffective alternative as compared to a standing safe hospital. And they cannot really compensate for the loss of fully equipped and functional hospital. They are just a standby arrangement or a stopgap arrangement for that particular time period. These field hospitals involve exorbitant cost for deployment also. So the cost part of it, which of course the public has to bear, has a very huge role into this. So the sole compelling reason, if I have to mention, for protection of hospitals from disaster is that for keeping the hospital operationally functional during normal times itself consumes nearly 1/3 of the public health investments in some of the countries when it was measured. So in nutshell, if I have to summarize this slide or summarize this take-home message regarding importance of HCFs and their protection is the hospitals offer more than protection of life of its occupants. It involves a lot of protection of investment and lot of protection of operations. So healthcare facility need to function in the aftermath of a disaster and should continue to offer services to the affected population. That is the whole idea which I'm trying to pitch through this talk. So the challenge on why the hospital can be rendered ineffective and what can happen if a hospital is rendered ineffective, that we have already seen. So now I'm trying to come down to another aspect, let's say another facet. In terms of the challenge, so Comptroller and Auditor General report in India This audit was conducted in India, performance audit of the disaster preparedness with the view to assess the preparation of the country to manage disasters. And it was conducted in a period from May 12 to September 12, which was tabled in Parliament on 23rd April 23. And this audit found that despite considerable progress, besides the reason that I quoted in my slide, which is supported by evidences, the progress in setting up institutions and creating funding arrangements, there are critical gaps in the preparedness level for various disasters. And this report also concluded that the systems which came into effect from 2005 Disaster Management Act is yet to achieve its desired impact. So one side, there is a dire need for the hospitals and healthcare facilities to be prepared because of the various reasons. The audit report, which was conducted by CAG reports, reflects the other side of it. So it becomes all more convincing, basically, to go ahead with the preparation. But what is preparation? How to measure where we are standing right now? We do not have any baseline study for that. As you know, until we measure something, we cannot say it is good or bad, or it needs to improve, or it needs to go down. So we do not have that thing as of now in India for our healthcare facilities. So the first question arises after this report was how to measure the preparedness. Do we have a comprehensive instrument, standardized instrument for measuring the disaster preparedness of hospital? No, we do not have. Although there are various instruments available which are used worldwide, but most of these instruments, which I'm going to quote in my subsequent slides, are situation specific or unidimensional, one-dimensional only. These tools which I'm talking about, standardized ones or comprehensive, not non-comprehensive ones, whichever is available, for evaluating the structural and non-structural aspects of disaster preparedness, they do not pay attention to the the functional aspect of the hospital. One of such tools is Hospital Disaster Preparedness Self-Assessment Tool. This tool was developed to assist hospitals in revising and updating existing disasters, etc. This tool has only two sections. One is regarding the hospital profile, what it has, type of specialties, the infrastructure, manpower, and building structures, etc. Essential services, etc. And does not mention anything about the manpower who has to actually run the show and how these factors interact and influence each other. So this just talks about the physical, hard, tangible structure. Then American College of Emergency Physician, they also have Community Medical Disaster Preparedness Planning and Execution Guide, which also faces the same problem. Unidirectional, unidimensional, the systems don't talk to each other basically. Then we have World Health Organization Health Safety Index 2015 second edition, which is their current edition. This HSI also does not provide objective measures for evaluating the functional domain of the hospital preparedness. It does not talk about the functionality, it just talks about the structural and non-structural preparedness part, the hazard index, and the basic profile of the organization. Then any of the tools which I have just mentioned here, or whichever we have reviewed in my study, in my, while preparing this slide and while as we conduct a lot of research, they do not follow a sound theoretical framework for the development of those tools. They simply measure the vulnerability of hospital, how vulnerable the hospital is. And another drawback is the tools are self-reporting or completed by conducting interviews instead of facility visits and hazard analysis. So it is a fragmented approach basically, which I'm trying to say. In India, there are quality control processes where, hospitals are audited for quality preparedness by Quality Council of India, by NQAS, Ministry of Health, or for that matter, JCI, Joint Commission International. And they also do not look at the disaster preparedness of the hospital when they conduct the quality preparedness audit. However, all the standards which I have mentioned, NABH, NQAS, JCI, they have a complete chapter or a complete segment on the community response of the hospital in the event of a disaster situation. But still, they do not integrate the findings with the preparedness. If I talk to you about the research part of it, a considerable amount of research studies are available there, published one, to understand the effect of disasters and various factors related to its management by the healthcare staff. So staff is dealt separately in some of the studies, how they get affected, how they respond, what are the factors which promote, what are the factors that hinder their performance, etc. things done only in isolation, not integrated with the structural and non-structural components. Then there is no study, no evidence which talks about the quality preparedness, audits, and disaster management to be integrated at any levels. Then the studies related to knowledge levels of hospital staff on the subject are scattered and abysmally low in the Indian context. So somebody would have done a CAP study for nurses or for doctors in isolation and things like that. And it's not a multicentric study also. And last point to which I want to put forward is there are no moral and legal obligations at any level which say that Disaster Management Act and accreditation or preparedness standard for a hospital can be tied together, so that the hospital looks at both the issues, because while preparing for accreditations or these kind of certifications, they in any case have to prepare for disasters, go for green buildings, go for climate resilient infrastructure and processes. So however, they do not talk to each other, the Disaster Management Act and these standards, which I'm trying to put forward, the preparedness standards, they are in silos to each other. So some of the strategies which I want to propose as a solution for this entire scheme of challenges, from the legal side, from the research side, from the CAG report, from the Disaster Management Act, from the the quality standards which are prevalent and supported by the ministry, are presented in this slide. So, as you all know, in order to make a hospital safe from natural disasters, multidisciplinary expertise is required from a variety of experts, including, engineers, architects, administrators, and other. And these specialized engineering skills are needed to carry out evaluation, basically, of associated structural elements like the load-bearing components that make the building stand. And these components include elements related to columns, beams, walls, and strength of the infrastructure. On the other hand, any failure of the hospital non-structural element, which includes a non-weight bearing, basically, or non-load bearing components like walls, windows, ceiling fixtures, appliance, etc., can also be severe. So interconnectedness of structural, functional, and non-structural components need to be looked into. So they are all interlinked to each other. The functional component, which I just now mentioned, includes the physical design and how the systems talk to each other. It involves the site of the hospital, the external and internal distribution of space, access routes, etc. And they are extremely critical in nature and ensure that hospitals are able to continue its operation in the wake of disaster situations. So interconnectedness is most important. So in order to make a hospital safe, as per the definition given by WHO and PAHO, we need to have understanding and plans for mitigating the factors which lead to their vulnerability during a disaster situation. And these factors primarily include the location, the design, specification, material use and construction, history of damages or poor functioning of non-structural elements, etc. things. So these are the basic requirements for ensuring continuity of hospital operations during an emergency situation, and ensuring regular and uninterrupted supply of support elements like water, electricity, sanitation, hygiene, mentioned by all my previous speakers in their slides. So that is one part of it. So strategies include strengthening the hospitals from a multidisciplinary expertise, looking at structural, non-structural, and functional elements weaved together in a framework, followed by application of quality management processes in the hospital, which in a way try to build in a mechanism or a process so that the hospital follows the laid down processes, legal, statutory requirements are complied with, patient safety is ensured. So these things have to be weaved together, structural and the quality processes. So it is in a way it is presented as such that a high quality healthcare services is implied to be safe, effective, patient-centered, etc. in nature. And that brings the common linkage between a disaster prepared and quality safe healthcare facility. So how do we do that? How do we weave it into a framework? This is the monitoring framework, which is a patented one, which I want to propose here. So if you look at the standards, the accreditation standards, in the light of, if you look at the hospital basically, of any of your hospitals or your healthcare facilities, in the given hazard profile, which you and I cannot do anything about. So hazard profile is a independent variable. If you look at the hazard profile of any of the healthcare facilities in the light of two things, one is the standards, quality preparedness standards, and the Disaster Management Act guidelines, hospital safety guidelines given under this act in 2016. And prepare the procedural component, prepare the structural and non-structural component as laid down in those standards and as laid down in the Disaster Management Act, the safety guidelines. Plus, you top it up with increasing the knowledge of the staff, which brings about change in the attitude of the staff, and finally affect the practice of the staff. We come up with a framework, this framework, which is proposed for preparedness of hospital, which are accredited also, which are disaster resilient also. And we can come up with a scoring for that also. That is done in the risk assessment tool, which I'm going to talk in my subsequent slides. So this is the framework which is proposed from my side as one of the strategic initiatives which can be adopted. So, sorry. So, since NDMA or Ministry of Home Affairs do not have any assessments and monitoring mechanism of its own, so it is proposed that they can collaborate with Quality Council of India and kind of come up with some guidelines which provide a joint certification of the hospital to be also disaster safe or disaster resilient if at all they are compliant with the so-called quality accreditation guidelines across India. And the key aspect of disaster which can be covered during the accreditation or the preparedness process can be, delineated under these headings. Disaster preparedness measures taken by the organization to respond to both internal and external disasters. The disaster mitigation measures with respect to design and safety of building and fire safety issues. Then the statutory and legal requirements, which includes compliance with the relevant acts and regulation governing the hospital and healthcare facilities. The copies of licenses and permits which are required to be checked, which is of course a part of any audits or accreditation process. And last is the capacity building. So hospital staff can be evaluated for their CAP, basically, which I just proposed, knowledge, attitude, and practice. And accreditation has a component of training and capacity building. So we need to just join these two ends which are not talking to each other and then try to create a comprehensive score from the total tool which comes out, which is there available with us. So if this thing is done, if this strategy is followed, what are the benefits? Few benefits that I could gather is it will lead to strengthening and development of the necessary institutional mechanism for ensuring high safety standards in any hospital for that matter, which is accredited because of course they have gone for any sort of preparedness or jacking up their quality systems and following the Disaster Management Act in a implied manner. Then hospital safety, these parameters which if they are mainstreamed in such a manner using this framework, that safe and functional hospitals, they become a natural byproduct of the health sector in the country. So don't have to do anything separately. Just do the things using this framework and using the hospital risk assessment tool weaved out of this framework. And this entire exercise, which is already done on an annual or once in 2 years or once in 3 years with every hospital, will lead to automatically cohorting of hospitals and development of a comprehensive system of hospital networks to enable resource sharing during emergency. So right now we do not know, our hospitals don't talk to each other unless they are forced to do so, where we have the resource sharing in terms of the manpower or equipment or facilities. So if we do it together, cohorting district wise or cohorting block wise or something like that, or specialty wise, will lead to development of the network, which can be, we leverage during the time of emergencies and disaster response. So it also paves the path for disaster preparedness journey of the hospitals from being weakly prepared to highly prepared in terms of disaster management. So overall game plan here is to see our own hospitals using this proposed strategic initiative and say I stand here in terms of maybe patient safety or staff safety or accreditation processes, but I stand at this level A or B in terms of my disaster preparedness. And my journey begins from the level X to level Y, which is of course higher than the previous level. So it has to be preparedness of for the disasters need to be taken as a continuous journey, like we do it for any of the hospital operation processes. And we can make the health system resilience. We can improve the resilience of the existing health systems and make the same healthcare facilities perform better, make the same healthcare staff perform better in less panic and in less stressed mode in the event of disasters and emergencies. That is the whole point I'm trying to make. Thank you for a patient listening. Any questions, please? And over to Kripa.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for all your emphasis on taking us through the CAG report, be it, or even saying about your CAP proposal, also saying how hospitals are working independently of each other, and also mentioning about the DM Act and the healthcare facility preparedness, how they're working in silos and how they should be actually working together for the more impactful results. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for all your support throughout this collaboration. Since it's running out of time, I would like to request participants to keep your questions a little very relevant and short. If we have any questions, or I'll go through the chat box and ask the questions. Yes, Mr. Rakshit has asked a couple of questions, one on CBRN management and how healthcare facilities, including primary care physicians and family physicians, can be a part of in epidemic preparedness, how all sectors can be brought together in the one health. Dr. Jugal Kishore, would you like to answer the question?
Yeah, okay. Nice question. I purposefully avoided talking about CBRN, although very important. I've touched upon some of the components, but not exactly same. At the national level, we have a program, IDSP. I have not touched upon that also. That is very crucial part and important to capture early warning uh, of the epidemic in any community. And this has been now strengthened further by ministry, starting with IHIP, that is Integrated Health Information Platform under the IDSP program. Uh, this is expected that even the health officer, or say the medical officer at the primary health center, should able to capture those all data on real time. uh, it is expected in future that even the ASHA workers and our health worker, female and male, they will be trained into online capturing of data. So that will be becoming important, component of the total early detection of the any kind of epidemic, whether it could be because of the exposure to some pathogen or a chemical or some nuclear event. uh, it is capturing because of the syndromic approach. So symptoms can appear because of exposure to any kind of this problem, and immediately the district level mechanism can be started. But yes, at the hospital level and also the medical college level, the training has been started by the ministry, and more center is coming up. So we are in the process of developing the capacity at the national level. I agree that it has not reached to the very lower level, that is the primary health center level, but in coming time, maybe I think CBRN uh, component will be part of the disaster management uh, overall training of the health system, and also the uh, district level, or say the block level mechanism, whatever it is there. And then health department will always be collaborating with it. That is what I'm seeing, that in future is going to be there. your
Hope
voice.
hope that answered your question, Mr. Rakshit. Thank you so much, sir. We- the 1.5 hours time that we had kept was not enough to talk about all these things. That's why that I prioritized the very important issues and did not touch upon CPRN because it's a very huge topic on its own. And hope we get to talk about those things maybe in another session with sir only. Thank you, sir. And I would like to be a little opportunistic now. And in participants, I noticed Dr. Satyarajithan is here. Sir is a Siddha medicine pioneer and is an assistant director and scientist at the Central Council for Research in Siddha, Government of India. I would like to, a little out of topic, but I would like to, I'm very interested to know how alternative medicines and those kind of medicinal practices, how it helped in COVID-19, we are aware. How alternative medicine can play a role in epidemic preparedness now that we're talking about this topic. So would you like to answer that?
Thank you. Kripa, am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Kripa, for this question to me. And my pranams to Dr. Jugal Kishore. I have met him twice in our unit at Safdarjung Hospital. And today, being an International Day of this preparedness, you can visit my social media accounts in LinkedIn and Facebook, and you can refer to my have been exact advised by WHO's the strategic preparation framework in at the time of COVID-19 spread. From that, you can see that the being an alternative systems, we could be able to follow every one of the points which has been mentioned by the WHO's preparedness platform, in which you can see how we have been very much now the alternative systems have been very much useful at the time of the epidemic in even in isolating patients from a single point of spread. See, we had some group of patients in Tamil Nadu who have been exposed to COVID, and we have been able to isolate these patients and their contacts from the general public, and which has been a very good measure for containment of the disease. And also, we have been very able to communicate with all the public health partners who have been involved, including including all the Department of Public Health people, and also in case management. Also, we could achieve many things by taking up with the symptomatic responses, doing some integrated studies. One of the study is at Delhi, which has been happened in the measuring the effectiveness of both the Siddha system and having the standard of care along with the Siddha system. So, if you know that if you have a viewpoint about the Siddha successive role in public health, is we could be very much able to control the dengue prevention, dengue epidemic at Tamil Nadu by the help of the Tamil Nadu government, whatever the government, whoever the people say occupying the seat. There have been an exclusive order from then Honorable CM Madam Jayalalitha, that every single point, every primary health center up to a tertiary medical college should dispense Nilavembu Kudineer, which is a decoction made up out of an official Siddha formulation, which itself has its antiviral activity, which has been proven by our team's work along with ICGB New Delhi, and you can also see a publication out of that. We could be able to prevent, see, in the prophylactic care, I think there is more opportunity for an alternative medicine to come into action. Whenever whenever there is a pandemic, you can see that, see, the only one point that I want to mention over here is what has happened in COVID is the earlier issued the Muri guidelines which has been emerged during Ebola. This has given us to test medicines with little evidence, and this has sorry for my bad throat, and this has given us a very big confidence to go into and dwell with the public health cases. So definitely alternative medicine is one such area which could help in the public health related diseases. And every time the alternative medical system is prepared to face the challenges. Thank you, Krupa. I feel I have answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, doctor. And as Jugal Kishore sir talked about totality and talking about One Health, it is all hands on deck. So alternative medicine, how much ever they can help, it's going to be effective to being prepared and being resilient. Thank you so much, everyone, for being patient. And the session has gone a little long, but thank you so much for staying with us. And I would like to thank all the resource persons, the experts, and everyone that participated and interacted with the experts with your questions and all. Thank you very much, and hope we meet in another similar session, and hope things change to a better extent next time we meet. Thank you so much.